Hello, English learners, and welcome back to Mr. Language. I'm your host, Mr. Language.
And I'm Anna. It's wonderful to be back with you all for another episode.
I am truly excited about today's topic, Anna. We received so many messages from our listeners who work in technology, specifically in backend development. They told us they feel confident writing code, but sometimes struggle to find the right words in English to discuss their work.
Absolutely. Backend development is the engine room of any application, full of complex systems and logic, and talking about it in another language adds an extra layer of challenge. So today, we are dedicating our entire episode to English for backend developers.
That's perfect. Backend developers need to talk about servers, databases, APIs, security, and performance. They need to explain technical concepts clearly in meetings, write documentation, and collaborate with front-end teams. The right vocabulary and phrases are essential for this.
And it's not just about knowing the technical terms. It's about knowing how to use them in natural conversations, how to report a problem, how to suggest a solution, and how to ask for help without causing confusion. We want to give you the language tools for all of that.
Let's start with a very common situation. A developer is debugging an issue and needs a second opinion from a colleague. Anna, shall we role-play this for our listeners?
Let's do it. I'll play the part of your colleague.
Hey, do you have a moment? I'm stuck on a weird issue with the authentication service.
Sure, what's going on?
The API is returning a 500 error, but only for specific user roles. I've checked the logs, and I can't seem to pinpoint the root cause.
That does sound odd. Have you verified the database permissions for those roles? Maybe there's a mismatch in the access control list.
That's a good thought. I haven't checked the ACL yet. Let me run a query to see if the permissions are being applied correctly. I'll also trace the entire request cycle again.
Good plan. Keep me posted. If it's a bug in the service itself, we might need to roll back the last deployment.
Okay, so that was a very natural exchange. Let's break down some of those phrases. I started with, I'm stuck on a weird issue. This is a fantastic way to say, you have a problem you can't solve. Instead of saying, I have a problem, saying, I'm stuck is very common and relatable.
And you specified it was with the authentication service. Notice you said the API is returning a 500 error. We always use the present continuous tense for this, returning, because it's an ongoing action. It's happening now. And we say the error code as a number 500, not 500.
Then I used a great phrase, pinpoint the root cause. This means to find the original, fundamental reason for the problem. It's not just about fixing the symptom, it's about finding the source.
In my response, I asked if you had verified the database permissions. To verify means to check and confirm that something is true or correct. It's a stronger word than just check. I also use the term access control list, which we often shorten to ACL.
And then you suggested I trace the entire request cycle. To trace means to follow the path of something step by step, often for debugging purposes. And finally, you mentioned we might need to roll back the last deployment. To roll back means to return to a previous, stable version of the software. This is a critical phrase when a new update causes problems.
Now let's imagine a different scenario. You're in a planning meeting and you need to estimate how long a task will take. Mr. Language, let's try that one.
All right, I'll be the project manager this time.
So, for the next sprint, we need to integrate the new payment gateway. What's your initial estimate for that task?
Based on the documentation, the initial setup looks straightforward. I'd say about 3 days for the core integration. However, we should probably allocate another 2 days for thorough testing and error handling. So let's call it 5 days to be safe.
5 days sounds reasonable. Don't forget to include time for writing the unit tests and updating the API documentation.
Understood. I'll make sure that's included in the timeline. I'll also need to sync up with the front-end team to agree on the request and response formats.
Perfect. Let's block some time for that tomorrow.
So, in that conversation, we heard several key phrases. The project manager asked for an initial estimate. An estimate is an approximate calculation of the time or cost. Initial means first, before you have all the details.
I said the setup looks straightforward. Straightforward means simple and easy to understand, not complicated. Then, I used a very important word, allocate. To allocate means to assign or set aside a specific amount of time or resources for a task. I said allocate another 2 days.
You also said, let's call it 5 days to be safe. This is a very common and natural phrase. It means, let's say 5 days, to avoid risk and have a buffer.
The project manager reminded me to include time for writing unit tests. Unit tests are small tests that check individual parts of the code, and he said to update the API documentation. This is the written guide for how to use the API.
Finally, you said you needed to sync up with the front-end team. To sync up is a great phrasal verb meaning to meet and share information to ensure everyone is coordinated. And you mentioned agreeing on the request and response formats, which is the structure of the data sent and received.
Now let's talk about a situation where something goes wrong in production. This is a high-pressure moment where clear communication is vital.
Yes, let's role-play an urgent conversation. I'll be the team lead.
I just got an alert. The database is timing out and the application is starting to throttle requests. What's the status?
I'm on it. I can see the connection pool is maxed out. It looks like a specific query is locking the tables. I'm killing that process now to stop the blockage.
Good. The metrics are already improving. Write up a post-mortem as soon as the system is stable. We need to understand why our monitoring didn't catch this query earlier.
Understood. I'll draft the post-mortem and circulate it by the end of the day. We should also consider adding a new alert rule for long-running database queries.
Excellent. Let's prioritize that.
That was a tense situation. Anna started by saying she got an alert. An alert is an automatic notification from a monitoring system about a problem.
I said the database is timing out. A timeout happens when a process takes too long and is stopped automatically. I also said the application is starting to throttle requests. To throttle means to intentionally slow down or limit the number of requests to prevent a total crash.
My response was, I'm on it. This is a very common, quick way to say I am dealing with this problem right now. I said the connection pool is maxed out. A connection pool is a group of reusable database connections. And maxed out is an informal way to say it has reached its maximum capacity and can't handle more.
You identified that a query was locking the tables. Locking a table means a process is preventing other processes from reading or writing to that table, which can cause a big slowdown. You said you were killing that process. In IT, to kill a process means to force it to stop immediately.
Then you asked for a postmortem. A postmortem is a meeting or document that analyzes an incident after it is resolved to learn what happened and how to prevent it in the future. It's a Latin term that means after death, used metaphorically here.
And you said you would circulate it. To circulate a document means to send it to a group of people for review and comments. Finally, you suggested adding a new alert rule, which is a specific condition that triggers an alert in the monitoring system.
Now let's shift to a more positive scenario. successfully deploying a big new feature.
I like that. Let's roleplay a quick stand-up meeting update.
Great. I'll start.
Okay, team, quick update. The new user analytics pipeline is finally in production. We managed to deploy it with zero downtime over the weekend.
That's fantastic news. Were there any issues with the data migration?
The migration itself was smooth. We had to backfill about a year's worth of historical data, and that batch job is still running, but it should be complete by noon.
Excellent work. The stakeholders are very eager to see the new dashboards. Let me know immediately if the job fails or if you spot any anomalies in the data.
Will do. We've got alerts configured for any failures, and we're monitoring the data quality closely.
So many useful phrases there. Anna announced that the pipeline is in production. Production is the live environment that real users interact with, unlike a test or development environment.
I said we deployed it with zero downtime. This is a key goal for many teams. Downtime is when the service is unavailable to users, so zero downtime means the update happened without any interruption for the users.
You asked about data migration. This is the process of moving data from one system or format to another. It's often a complex and risky part of a deployment.
I mentioned we had to backfill historical data. To backfill means to add missing data from past periods into a new system. The data is historical from the past. And I said a batch job is running. A batch job is an automated task that processes a large volume of data at once, rather than processing it continuously.
You also use the word stakeholders. This is a very important business term. Stakeholders are the people who have an interest in the project's success, like managers, clients, or other departments. They are not necessarily technical people.
And finally, I said we are monitoring the data quality closely and have alerts configured for any failures. To monitor closely means to watch very carefully. Anomalies is a great word for unusual or unexpected data points that might indicate a problem.
Let's do one more role play. This time, let's focus on a code review. This is a daily activity for developers and requires clear, constructive language.
Perfect. I'll review your code.
Hey, I've just opened a pull request for the new caching layer. Could you take a look when you have a chance?
Sure, I'll review it now. Overall, the implementation looks solid. I like how you've abstracted the cache logic. One thing, though, I noticed a potential race condition in the cache invalidation method.
Oh, you're right. I didn't consider that. What would you suggest? Maybe adding a lock around that section?
Exactly. A mutex lock would prevent that issue. Also, could you add a few more comments around the complex parts? It would make the code easier to maintain later.
Good points. I'll add the lock and update the comments. Thanks for the thorough review.
No problem. Happy to help.
That's how a positive and helpful code review should sound. I asked you to take a look at my pull request. This is a polite and common way to ask for a code review.
I started with positive feedback. I said the implementation looks solid. Solid is a great word meaning strong, reliable, and well-built. I also said I liked how you'd abstracted the logic. To abstract means to hide the complex details and provide a simple interface.
Then you gave constructive criticism. You used the soft phrase, one thing, though, to introduce your feedback. You said you noticed a potential race condition. A race condition is a tricky bug, where the output depends on the sequence or timing of uncontrollable events.
You agreed and asked for a suggestion. This is a great way to collaborate. You proposed a solution, adding a lock. I agreed and specified a mutex lock, which is a specific type of lock used in programming to prevent multiple threads from accessing a resource simultaneously.
You also asked me to add comments to make the code easier to maintain. To maintain code means to make changes and fix bugs in it later. And I thanked you for a thorough review. Thorough means complete and careful, paying attention to detail.
The key is to be specific and helpful, not just critical. This builds a great team environment.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about debugging, planning, incidents, deployments, and code reviews. The vocabulary we've practiced is essential for any back-end developer working in an English-speaking environment.
Remember, the goal is clarity, not perfection. Don't be afraid to use these phrases. Listen to how your colleagues speak and try to imitate their natural flow.
Practice these conversations, even by yourself. The more you use this language, the more confident you will become in your daily work.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into English for back-end developers.
Keep practicing, and we'll see you next time on Mr. Language.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.